What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Masterclass, the newest show on Club Fantasy FFL. And tonight, we're going to introduce you to the best ball streets. Welcome our co-host, Stacy Perez, at Stacy_Perez83 over there on Twitter. And as always, you can find me at FantasyJ77 on Twitter. Stacy, welcome to the Club Fantasy family. How are you?
I am fantastic, Gator. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's Tuesday, but it's
Tuesday.
best ball Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, there's a ton of best ball shows out there. So can you explain to the viewer and the listener what the goal of our show is going to be?
Yeah. So the goal of our show here is to really introduce people to best ball. And, those of us that are in the fantasy football community, we all know what best ball is. We've known what best ball was for a long time. But, when I talk to my friends out there that play casually, they have no idea what I'm talking about. And so I know there's a lot of folks out there that have, family obligations and work obligations. And, maybe you don't have the time to really commit to a dynasty league or to a redraft league, So here's an alternative for you, and it's best ball, right? So I want to teach people what it is. I want to, spread the good word of best ball here, get everybody involved. It's so much fun. And it's such a low commitment. You do the draft, and boom, you are that's it. So I just, like I said, I just want to share with people, share with those who don't know what best ball is, get more people involved. At the end of the day, fantasy football is so much fun. We love doing it. And I know other people love doing it too. And so that's just my goal with the show, is to teach people the different strategies that are involved, different platforms that you can play on, all the different ways that you can enjoy fantasy football, even though it's April.
Yes. Yeah. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to, as Stacy just said, try to, for the player that's out there and plays on a regular already, this is going to seem more elementary, for this first week or so. But our goal ultimately is to get you to where you're in college, aka Masterclass, where we're going to play a little bit higher stake. We're not going to be doing the $5, $10 like we're going to do tonight, but we're going to get you more into the higher end, high stakes stuff. So tonight we're going to be doing a best ball draft hosted on Underdog. We'll be doing the big board draft, Stacy.
We will be.
Are you ready to do this?
I am getting there. Give me just 1 second. I had to confirm that I wanted to spend my $10 with Underdog. So we are in there. I am going to be throwing up the draft board here as soon as this draft fills.
So anybody in the chat, you want to get in with us now?
Let's go. So if you're out there right now, and it looks like they've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots available. So if you're out there right now and you're drafting, you hear us, you are within the sound of our voices, go grab your phone, get on your laptop, go to underdog.com right now. You can jump in the big board best ball draft. What's up, Bob Harris? I see you over there in the chat, and shout out to Lisa and Charlene as well. See you ladies over there.
Yeah, Bob Harris, Stacy is speaking directly to you right now. Jump in the best ball with us.
Bob, let's go. Come on now. But yeah, if anybody's out there, you guys want to draft with us, like I said, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots available to jump in. So odds are, if you jump on Underdog right now, you go to that big board. Too many words that start with a double B, Gator. Best ball, big board. I need it to be called something else, or else I'm just
Braves baseball.
Braves baseball, which is the best. Bolts hockey. That's only 1 B, but that's still good too.
It's well, like you said, we're going to be doing the big board tonight. Mm-hmm. It is a half point PPR, 20 rounds. And the settings on this one is 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 flex, 12 bench. Again, this is a $10 entry, and we are doing a 30-second clock.
Yes, 1 more spot available, girls and guys. So get on in there if you want to do it. So we should be getting started here in just a second. These things fill so quickly. So if you guys have instant gratification issues like I do, and you want to draft right now, these are fantastic ways to do it. Here we go. We are getting out there. I'm getting this draft board up, ready to go.
That is one of the best things about best balls, right? Is my other show that we do on Monday nights is all about mocking, right? And it's just, everybody loves to mock. Everybody loves to do that. So if you love mocking, this is basically what it is. You're doing your draft, and then you're done with it. There is no lineups to set on Sundays. You don't have to worry about the hangovers, right? You don't have to worry about waivers. You don't have to worry about fab. You don't have to worry about trades. You don't have to worry about any of it. You set your lineup and you move on.
Exactly.
Okay, so we got the draft board up here,
Oh,
and
Charlene's in there. She is boom chicka boom. And let's see, you are
trying to
drafted
figure
in the 7th spot,
which one is going to be
Charlene.
the best. Let's we'll do this one here, and then you'll just have to scroll whenever we move. But yeah,
Right.
boom chicka boom on Underdog in the draft.
Calvin, the best part of best ball is setting draft, set it and forget it until the injuries hit. That's absolutely right.
Well, again, you don't worry about the injuries. You hopefully at that point, by the time the first injury comes around, you've already drafted what 25, 30, 75, 100 teams.
And I bet people are freaking out hearing us say that many. But I promise you, once you get into these, if you are new to best ball, like I said, like I have instant gratification. I just want to draft. I want to, sit down for 45 minutes, an hour, and knock out a draft real quick. Trust me, you are going to become a best ball degenerate just like the rest of us, and you're going to have 50 to 75 teams. I promise.
Calvin piping in enjoys best ball better than median scoring.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yep.
Well, Stacy, the bell is rung. We are in class here. We are drafting from what looks like the 9th position. Is that correct?
We are. So we're in the 9th spot here. We have got Charlene is going to be drafting pretty soon here. She's going to be on the clock in just a second. But guys, when you're doing something like this, it's really important that you load your queue, right? So go in there, load your queue. I would show you mine, but then everyone's going to know what I'm drafting. But put a ton of players in your queue. That way you don't get sniped, just like J-Max just did to me with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So hopefully Charlene doesn't take the player that I was looking at taking. Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Well, I think you can use your queue too. That depending on how you're drafting, if you have 2 or 3 players that you really really like, and you think they should go in whatever order, you draft one of them. If they're in your queue when it comes back to your turn, or right before it comes back to your turn, you're able to at least look at your queue and say, "Oh my lord, X player is still available."
Yeah.
If he only gets to me, then I don't have to even search anymore.
Exactly. And guys, remember too, you can sort via ADP, and what ADP is average draft position. So if you're looking to see where are these players normally going in these particular kind of drafts, Underdog has that listed on your players section on your dashboard while you're drafting. So you can just click that little button here and it'll sort all of those players. So you know exactly, okay, is now a good time to take Saquon Barkley, or is it too early? Would this be a reach? So it'll tell you here if you're not really familiar with ADP, and it's so early in the season too. So, ADP is still kind of shaken out. Once we have the draft, everything's going to change anyway. Once you get those rookies, mixed in their landing spots. So keep that in mind. Just, if you're unfamiliar with Underdog and drafting on that platform, that's kind of what that looks like. And maybe one day Gator will do a show where I show you my queue while I'm doing it.
Yeah, we'll have to get like another device where we have another screen where we can actually have like the queue at the bottom kind of a deal.
Exactly.
And just watch your players fly off as everybody else drafts them right before you. That would be that would not be a great day to do that. Now you've explained to the viewer what fantasy football best ball is.
Yes.
How does best ball differ from the traditional fantasy football outside of you don't set your lineups, you don't have to worry about waivers, you don't have to worry about trades?
Yeah.
What's the other big difference or biggest differences in your opinion?
So most of the best ball that you're going to be playing is, and a lot of what we're going to be doing is going to be big tournaments. So in this particular one, like what we talked about, the first prize is $200,000. You're going to have 223,000 other people throwing in entries as well. So a lot of different strategies come into play at this point with best ball and a tournament style. It's not stuff that you would necessarily do in redraft. So when we start talking about stacking, when we say, I'm on the clock, I'm going to take this player right here because I believe that this one is a pretty great value. And I just love me a Falcons stack that I might be trying to do here. Who knows? Maybe put it out there. No one, Charlene, just pretend I didn't say that. Hopefully no one else is in the draft is listening. But yeah, so, when we're talking about stacking, we're talking about, later on, we're talking about correlation once the, season schedule gets put out and we're looking at the different matchups towards the end of the season and what, players are going to be a little bit more valuable at that point. All those things you're going to be doing when you're doing a best ball team and a best ball draft, as opposed to, a redraft or a dynasty draft.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that we do need to notate when we're talking about the biggest differences is we do look for boom bust guys in best ball, whereas traditional redraft or dynasty, we could give a damn about the boom bust guys, right?
Oh,
We
yeah.
do want the boom bust weeks.
You do. You absolutely do. So if you have a player, let's take Gabe Davis. He's a perfect example of this, right? He's a guy who literally, if you go back and look at his stats last year, 1 week, a big fat 0. Okay. The next week, he's going off for 20 points. And it literally would go like that, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, throughout the entire season. That's a nightmare to deal with in a redraft league, right? But if you're in best ball, who cares? Because you're not setting your lineup. So those boom weeks, those are all going to count for you. And those bust weeks, somebody else is taking his spot. So it doesn't hurt you. What's up, Wendy Early? I see you over there in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. Let's take a look and see. So, guys, we're coming on into the second round, or we're ending the second round here. Going on into the third. There goes Nico Collins. I was wondering where he would fall given the Stephon Diggs news. But it's in the second round, so he hasn't really moved too much.
No, I don't hate it. I don't think I don't think he's the one that gets hurt with the Stephon Diggs stuff. I think it's actually going to be another player, and maybe we'll talk about him later.
Oh, it's probably my favorite Texan.
It might be. It might be. What are some of the strategies to succeed in best ball?
So, like I said, once we start doing these big tournaments, if you're playing in a smaller self-contained league with 11 other of your friends, kind of ignore this, specific thing that I'm going to talk about right here. But some strategies that we like to do is kind of like look at your build and how do you want to build your team based on what the scoring is in your particular tournament. So, like this is a half point PPR, which means that you get an extra half point for points per reception. So obviously what's going to be more valuable here? Probably your receivers or your dual threat running backs, right? Those guys are going to have more options as far as, or they're going to have more potential to get more points for you because of that half point PPR. So maybe you want to do like what Team 3 here is doing with a straight wide receiver build. Something that I really enjoy doing too. I'm more of a wait to draft your running back until a little bit later kind of girl. But that doesn't mean you always have to do that. And the beauty of best ball, and when you're drafting so many different teams, we use the word high volume, for drafting, multiple teams here. You can mess around with your builds. You can say, today I want to try to do a hero running back style. And we'll talk more about those as we go on. And I don't want to kind of inundate everybody with all that right off the bat. Gosh darn it, J-Max just keeps taking my guys. Sam Laporta was definitely on my queue there for sure. That's okay though. We've got other options. But yeah, so stacking, huge, really important when you're looking at these tournaments, and then correlation that we'll get into a little bit later are going to be, the biggest things I think when you're looking at putting together a winning best ball team. Charlene's on the Mike Evans.
Not Laporta.
I know, gosh. Oh, well, those were both of my guys that were on my list. So, I'm going to do something a little controversial here.
Are we going to go quarterback in the third round?
No, we're not. I'm going to take a controversial running or receiver here.
Okay.
Ooh. What do you think about that? Taking a receiver.
Ooh, that's a little spicy. I mean, hey,
Spicy.
but again, that goes back to what we said a little bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
In best ball, we don't really care.
Right.
We want the boom weeks. We want, of course, the more boom weeks, the better than the bust weeks. But I mean, in this format where you're starting 3 wide receivers and a flex, that I don't hate the pick. I don't. There might have been a few other players that might have taken him before him. But I mean, you could see a minor suspension.
Maybe you might.
These things take a while to play out.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I'm going at too. And guys, shout out to Drew Davenport too, who does
Oh,
excellent coverage on anything legal going on in the football community. Really, I think he does a lot, and really any sport. But Drew's fantastic about that. So if you want more in-depth info about what's going on with Rashee Rice, go look up Drew Davenport on the Twitter machine. But I can almost guarantee you, knowing how slowly the wheels of justice move, he's not going to be suspended before the season starts unless something crazy happens. I seriously doubt if he does get suspended that it's going to be before the season starts. So,
what are some common mistakes that beginners should avoid?
so I would say kind of being a slave to ADP, right? And when I say ADP again, that means average draft position. Kind of occupational hazard here with my day job is that I speak in a lot of acronyms. So if I do that, I am so sorry. But being a slave to ADP and saying, okay, well, now it's time to take look at me. I've got 3 wide receivers here. So what would that, maybe say to you? Oh gosh, maybe she needs to take a running back or she needs to take, a quarterback, something like that. Well, if I have a particular build that I wanna do, I'm not gonna get caught up in all that. I'm gonna stay true to what I wanna do. I'm gonna take what the draft gives me, and if there's value at a certain spot, then great, then I'll take it. But if there's not, then I'm gonna keep doing what I wanna do. And what I wanna do right now, actually, I wanna take Tank Dell, but I don't feel really good about that at this point. That's a conversation for another day.
I don't
So
think
what I
Tank Dell is the one that gets hurt. I don't think Tank Dell
you
gets
think
hurt.
it's Schultz?
I think it's Schultz.
I do. I think it's Schultz as well. Gator, maybe you talked me into it. Maybe I'll do it. What do you think?
I think there's well,
Oh, I just took CJ Stroud. Well, that's fine. I wanted to take him anyway.
yeah.
Um,
I want to back up a second because we talked about Tank Dell for just a quick second,
yeah,
but we looked at the Nico Collins pick in round 2 there, and that particular manager turned right around
yep,
and picked up Stefan Diggs. Now,
I love
I
that.
may not be necessarily involved in the show itself, but how do you feel about having 2 wide receivers from the exact same team on your roster when it comes to best ball?
I love it, especially if you've got a high performing offense, like you do with the Texans, right? So you've got a guy that, or 2 guys on your team now that are going to produce, right, with Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. I really think this is probably going to be a bounce back year for Diggs. I think he's got something to prove. So, and I honestly, I think CJ Stroud can support 3 fantasy relevant receivers, just given the way that he performed last year. Of course, there's always room for regression when you have such an outstanding year from a player. But I think that his talent and the way that they've built that team there in Houston is going to support what they've got going on there. So I have no issue with you taking Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. Guys, remember, we're talking about you're not setting lineups every week. So
Mhm.
you're going to maybe worry about, okay, well, I've got these 3 receivers here. He's got Hill, Collins, and Stephon Diggs. Sure, you have a bye week where you don't have those 2 guys. You can fill in the bottom parts of your draft in the later rounds. So not a concern at all. And for those of you unfamiliar with the term stacking, that's exactly what that looks like. So you're taking guys from the same team. Normally, what you're doing, right? You're taking a quarterback, you're taking a receiver, quarterback, or running back, something like that. But I definitely support doing it with receivers as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure that that'll be over the next couple of weeks. We'll talk more about stacking and the benefits of it, and then of course, where there's a benefit, there's also a detriment, right? So
Yes.
we'll talk about that as well through the next couple of weeks. Are there any specific player positions that are more valuable in best ball or least valuable in best ball?
So I personally, well, first off, let me just say, hello to Jorge. See you in the chat over there. You need to look at your scoring and how is your league set up and what's the format there. So that's going to be the most important thing because if you are in a tight end premium, right, what's going to be the most important position probably? Your tight end because you're getting extra points from him. If you're in a super flex, right, what's going to be the most important? Probably that second quarterback or that first quarterback that you're taking probably in the first round. So just take a look at your format and what it is that you are drafting, how the point structure is. But for me personally, most of these are going to be a PPR format that you're playing in. I can't really even think of too many that are not at this point PPR leagues. So for me, that means that I'm going after those receivers. I'm going to load up on receiver because there's a pretty big tier break in it. We're actually kind of starting to see it now, we've got Christian Kirk here.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, poor Amari Cooper didn't have the best year last year. So you're going to start seeing those tier breaks And when I say tier breaks, I mean like as far as talent wise. So you're going to have your top guys that are really great, and then you're going to have to just start falling off a little bit as far as production. So you want to keep that in mind. I want to get the players that are going to produce the most, that have the potential to produce the most early, and go after those guys. So, like I said, I mean, it just really depends on your league format. And that's how you kind of want to keep in mind, okay, this is the scoring structure. And that's really for any league that you play in, not just best ball. But that's particularly important here in how you're building your team.
Yeah, I think something else that we'll see is this is only a 4-point passing on
Mm-hmm.
Underdog. So
Yes.
again, with it only being a 1 QB, only 4-point passing, you're not going to see the quarterbacks fly off. I mean, really, we're into round, what are we in, round 5,
Yep.
6, 5 now. I think it's a little surprising, at least from what I've seen lately, that we've already seen 5 quarterbacks go off the board.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. And I mean, I think that says a lot too. After last season, you were taking quarterbacks in the second round, and then you saw that as far as points wise, you weren't really getting what you drafted, right? So the value that you were getting there in the second round, you're paying a pretty high premium to go get a quarterback, one of these top guys, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. And he's Patrick Mahomes, but at the end of the day, when you look at his fantasy numbers, he's the number one quarterback in the NFL for real football, not so much for fantasy. And I think that's kind of reflected now. You kind of see that, in all these, teams that are being drafted, quarterbacks aren't going until later at this point. So I think you're going to see that not only in best ball, I think you're going to see that in redraft as well, once, the redraft season really starts kicking in.
Yeah, this should be Lisa's statement right here is probably the best ball quote. What should be the best ball quote? The best version of your team every week. That's a dream, or that's the
Yeah,
dream. That should
exactly.
be. We should absolutely have that as a label, and it should just be best ball, the best version of your team every week.
Yes.
That's the dream.
Lisa, you
Lisa,
gave us
Lisa,
a galaxy.
unfortunately, I do know your job, so I'm going to rely on Stacy to actually go and trademark that before you're allowed to do that. Lisa, appreciate it.
Lisa's the best. Lisa and I work together, so shout out to Lisa. Lisa, you're phenomenal. I'm so happy that you're here too, hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah,
So, guys,
I don't want to get off too far, but Lisa, what's
yeah,
crazy is when Stacy and I first started talking about doing this particular show, building it out the way we've built it out to this point, your name came up. And ironically, the day that we were talking, you actually went to Stacy and brought up this same idea or concept. So we definitely appreciate you for tuning in and checking us out.
absolutely. And so I'll just share, kind of, since I just drafted. I'm gonna have a minute now, since I'm on the end. What Lisa and I were talking about. So Lisa plays in a league with other ladies, and she mentioned to me, like that there's a lot of people out there that play casually and would like
Mhm.
to learn more about fantasy football, and that we should do a show teaching people about fantasy football. And I was like, Lisa, that's crazy, because that's exactly what Gator and I were, working on putting it together. And so it's just so crazy that, this is what our vision was. And then to hear other people, looking for that kind of show as well. So just a lot of validation that, there is an audience out there, for this kind of thing. And just, just again, really excited to share best ball with everybody.
Yeah, I think what Stacy's saying there, Lisa, is she needed the validation that her idea was good, even though I told her it was good. You said that, and it just made her feel better. So
Yes,
appreciate
absolutely.
the backup. Now I'm looking at your draft, and I
Are you
love
getting
the
a little
pick.
nervous?
No, no. I actually I love the pick there with Kyle Pitts.
Thank you.
But you have Kyle Pitts, you have Drake London.
Mhm.
My question is again, I'm not quite sure that the CJ Stroud may have been a little bit early for me,
It
but
was.
but I mean, looking back, would you have rather had gone ahead and gotten a Tank Dell, or one of the other wide receivers, and then now you're sitting here going, okay, I've got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and in round what 10,
Yeah.
11 possibly go and get that Kirk Cousins. Now you have the triple stack.
That's kind of, definitely an idea. So I'll tell you guys, I'll be completely honest here. CJ Stroud was an accidental auto draft because I was talking and not paying attention to my draft. He was on my list. So I mean, I'm not sad at all that I have CJ Stroud on my team. Not at all. When you look at my team, you probably do say, hey, wait a minute, he doesn't fit what it looks like you're doing. Yeah, and that happens sometimes. Sometimes, with these 30-second clocks, right? It goes by so quickly that you get a little distracted, and that's okay. We can admit when we make a little oops, and it's not a big deal, and then we'll just pivot, and try to fix, and kind of do our team around that. But I did take Kyle Pitts to go with Drake London there. Like I said, I really do kind of like a nice Falcon stack this year. Hopefully that proves correct for us going into the season. But I think it's going to be one of the more fun stacks to do. I have a feeling that it is going to get more expensive as the season goes on. So I want to try to get that now while I can. And you guys will notice too, if you start drafting in April, everything's going to look a lot different than it does down in August. Okay. Because you're going to have the entire summer, news is going to come out, injuries are going to come out, the draft happens. Pete, guys are still going to be moving around from different teams. So much can change, and that's kind of really why I enjoy drafting this early, because you just don't know, right? It's a roll of the dice. You have no idea what's going to happen with their rookies, and who's going to be a boom, who's going to be a bust. I mean, Puka Nacua, right? You got him for free basically last year in the 18th, 19th, 20th rounds of drafts, and I took him number one in the first round this year. So hopefully he has a good year for me. But that's just kind of the fun part about drafting this early. And especially when you're doing something that's like a $10 buy-in, like what we're doing tonight, you're not spending a ton of money on it. If some of these rookies don't play out or people get hurt, it's $10. You still had a good time though.
Well, I think that's a great point. Is the other side of that coin is oops, I made a mistake right here.
Right. And
Okay.
that's
Guess what you can do in about 45 minutes?
Yeah. Do
Start
another
a
one.
whole new draft.
Do a whole another one.
Start all over.
No one sniped me. I'm going to take my favorite late round running back right here and Mr. Raheem the Dream Mostert. Guys, how are we letting him go this late in the 7th round? That man put up what Gator, like 18 bajillion touchdowns last year? I think it was 18 rushing touchdowns, actually.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, he led the league in touchdowns. The man led the league in touchdowns, and he's going in the 7th round. Come on, y'all. What are we doing? Actually, keep doing it, because I'll take him every day that I can in the 7th round. So keep it up.
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
I want to get to this next question here, but I also want to get this wrap around because I think this is going to be a little bit longer of an answer. So that's what I ended up with a lot.
Charlene,
Best ball teams last year. Now, Charlene, is that because of a mistake early in the drafts? And then you were like, oh, shoot, let me go back and let me start over. And then like 5 minutes into the next draft, you were like, oh, shoot.
I think she probably means because you can do these so quickly and for so little investment. I don't know, Charlene, you can clarify if that's what you mean or not, but that is definitely how I ended up with 50 some odd best ball teams, which was the most I've ever had this year. So
you were fixing to be on the clock here again. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I love about the best ball is just the fact of draft it and be done with it. I'll find out in 5 months. Draft it, be done. I'll find out in 5 months. But you can absolutely do multiples at the same time because depending on which site you're on, you have anything from a 30-second clock to an 8-hour clock. You have the slow drafts, you have the fast drafts. There's a couple out there that we will probably dive into over this summer. They have a 1-minute clock.
Yep.
So we'll get into all of those. Charlene says not necessarily a mistake, more like things didn't go as planned.
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen, Charlene, especially when you're in a sharp draft room. If you are watching the live stream right now, you're looking at our screen. and you are unfamiliar with Underdog, you see a lot of these icons here underneath people's names, and they've got a little badge next to them. That means that they have drafted a very high number. I have no idea what that number is. Gator, you might know off the top of your head. I don't.
There's so you'll look at them and see that there's different colors. On this one here in particular, there are black and whites, and then there are red and whites. The actual number I do not know, but there's, I want to say the first time you get a badge is at 100 total drafts.
Okay.
And that's one color, right? There's gold and white. So there's like 6 or 7 different colors. But so each color is a different number of total drafts.
I've got to be closing in on a badge. I need to figure that out, because I feel like I did a bajillion drafts on Underdog last year. Girls, I will tell, and this is just for the ladies. Well, I mean, I guess guys too, if you enjoy this kind of thing, especially on Underdog, because these fill so quickly and they take 45 minutes of your time. I would go get my nails done and be sitting in the little pedicure chair. And you know what? I'm going to rip off a draft right now. And that is what I did. I'd sit there getting a pedicure, just boop, 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 boop on my phone, doing a draft. So if, like I said, if you really get into this and you're really into it and you just say, hey, you know, I want to do something real quick, you can do it anywhere. You can draft anywhere, which is just the most fun thing I think about this type of a format, right? You don't really have to, you know, not too much planning goes into it. You don't need to sit down with your spreadsheets and, you know, just get all stressed out about who you're going to pick. These are fun. These are meant to be fun. They're meant to be done quickly. So 100%. Enjoy it.
Yeah, Cindy chiming in. Hey, y'all, this is great. Love hearing this. She was new to best ball last year, so I needed all the help I could get. Well, that's exactly why we're trying to do this. We not only to help everybody in the best ball area or best ball streets, but also to try to entice new players on the understanding of it, and absolutely, if you have questions after the show, do not hesitate. Stacy's DMs are open. My DMs are open. Please hit us up. We have no problem. And if I can't answer it, I will send you to the professor and let Stacy answer it for you. So yeah, please, absolutely appreciate the comment. There's Cindy. Charlene says, "Oh, that's a good idea. I did a bunch of 4-hour drafts because of kids."
Charlene, man, God bless you. I don't know how you do slow drafts. I have zero patience for slow drafts. So, man.
Charlene, in the months of building this show, there were many of text messages from me to Stacy. Hey, are you busy? I'm getting my nails done.
Oh yeah.
So I knew what that meant. I didn't know if she was getting her toenails done, her fingernails done, but I knew the phone was in her hand and she was drafting a best ball team.
Yep. Absolutely. I can't tell you how many. I wish I had kept track of how many times that I did that throughout the summer, but it was a lot. It looks like we're on a nice little wide receiver run here in the 9th round. Caleb Williams going in the 9th round here after Jordan Love and Brock Purdy. So that's interesting. He was in my queue of guys to take. But Gator, I'm sure we're probably going to touch on this at some point, but when we're doing these best ball drafts, you know, another big difference from redraft is, you know, you're going to take 2 to 3 quarterbacks. You're going to go get multiple tight ends, you know, those kind of positions, because, you know, when you do that, you know, you've got to account for bye weeks. You've got to account for injuries, things like that. So that's why you're going to be drafting more of these players. And I cannot believe that it took this long for somebody to take Zamir White, because Charlene, good for you, because I was going to take him next if you didn't. And now I'm on the clock, so I better figure out who I'm going to take real quick.
Yeah, and as you're looking at your pick right here, ooh,
you like that?
I like that.
You like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
A little Kirk Cousins in there for you. You like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Where's that sound drop? You like that?
Oh, I won't do that again. That gives me so much cringe every time I see that clip of him.
Look, the Ferguson pick there, like I said, I do like it. Over 100 targets last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dak Prescott loves his tight end. The man loves to throw to a tight end.
Yep.
I've got Kyle Pitts, I've got you know, and now Jake Ferguson. So let's go. Let's do it.
We are popping into the 10th, or coming around the 9-10 turn here. What are some resources or tools beginners can use to prepare for their best ball drafts outside of just, you know, DMing you?
Oh, well, yeah, of course, definitely. If like I said, DMs are open, so feel free to send me questions. When I see DMs are open, feel free to send me questions, people. Let's keep it PG out there. Um,
See what you did there.
there's so many resources, Gator, out there right now. I mean, I know, Club Fantasy, everybody has got stuff out there. You can go online, you can find a lot of free materials. You can find some things that are paid. Really, whichever, floats your boat. If there's a particular podcast that you listen to, I can almost guarantee you they're going to have some sort of resources for you to go out there, look at rankings for best ball, look at ADP for best ball. Keep in mind too, where are you playing? So if you're playing on, for example, the FFPC, which we're going to be doing some drafts with them later this season, they've got Fantasy Mojo, which gives you all the ADP information regarding those drafts that are being done in the FFPC. So you can find that out. I'm on the clock right now. I'm going to have to reach just a smidge because I don't think he's going to be there when it comes back around to me for where I am. So Kirk Cousins, come on down, baby.
Yeah, I see.
Bring the
Here's
cold wash.
you brought this up. Calvin's brought this up, but Bob Harris is absolutely smashing the answer right here. Slow drafts is the answer. You do enough of them at one time,
Yeah.
you were continually drafting.
Yes, you can. And listen, slow drafts, some people love slow drafts. I just don't have the patience for it. And I will tell you, here's what really is the main reason that I can't deal with slow drafts is that I get so many emails throughout the day. Gator, if I get one more email on my phone, I will probably just hurl it across the room. So getting those emails telling me that somebody's made a pick in your slow draft. If you're doing 50 of those, oh my gosh, it can get overwhelming. So if you are a person that gets a ton of emails every day and doesn't want to deal with one more, maybe slow draft's not for you. It's not for me. But it is great. It's a great tool out there for those of you too that like want to take some time and say, look, I've got 4 hours to make this pick. I want to look at the board. I want to look at what other people are doing. I want to look at their builds. I want to see, maybe do some strategizing about, okay, it looks like the team in front of me is doing something, particular. Maybe I want to take this player now because if not, then, maybe they grab that player or something like that. So slow drafts are great. They're wonderful. Like I said, just my personal preference, don't love them. But that is another option out there too for folks to play in if you don't want to sit down and do something, immediate, kind of like this. Cause I know sometimes too, I've heard from some people that it kind of gives them anxiety, with the 30-second clock sitting down and, like kind of like what happened to me earlier with CJ Stroud, like, oh my gosh, like all my guys are gone. And, now that's, it auto drafted for me. So,
Yeah, but
definitely another option.
at least it was early enough. It wasn't like it was a horrible pick.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
it was
It's
a little
either
bit of a reach, but it wasn't a horrible pick.
no. And I can tell you what was we're going to scroll up for a second. He was the third quarterback off the board.
Third quarterback, yeah.
That's
Josh
fine.
Allen, Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud. Yep.
He in reality, he probably goes after Lamar, and probably after Mahomes too, maybe. But that's not egregious by any means. Ah, Matthew over there in number 2 taking Lad McConkey. That's
Well,
Keith Fleming would be furious.
what does when you're sitting here and doing a best ball, how do you value the rookies? Again, we're before the draft, of course, but
Yeah.
how do you value the rookies in best ball before the NFL draft with no landing spot?
It's tough. It's really tough, right? I mean, it's almost just like kind of a dart throw. If you want to take Marvin Harrison Jr. in the second round, by all means, please go ahead and take Marvin Harrison Jr. in the second round. But if you're looking at, these other guys, like I just put Blake Corum in my queue. So, this is probably about the time for him to go around that mid round of your draft, right? So we're in round 11 going in, and this is, 20 rounds. You just really don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where these guys are going to land. So, once the draft happens, like we talked about earlier, that, shift in ADP is coming, and you'll see different guys go in different areas. Like let's take, for example, Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta last year, right? They landed in the absolute perfect landing spot that they could have been in. Couldn't have been in a better spot for them to land in Detroit. So those guys are going much higher right after that. You saw Jahmyr Gibbs going in the second round. You saw Sam Laporta going super high. And by all means, he should have gone super high given what he ended up doing. But that's just This is it's tough. It's tough. I don't really have a great answer for you, Charlene, especially with the rookie question. I wouldn't tell you there's one right way versus another. I think it's just more of a vibes thing until the draft happens. For me personally. And I'm on the clock right now, so I better figure something
Yeah,
out real
I do think it is a personal preference of feelings, going back to the original, the question a few minutes ago about, different tools and things that beginners can use. You were talking about the different content creators that are out there, best
quick.
ball content creators. If they also put out a ADP or their rankings,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
can always rely on them because most of them will
Yes.
also include the rookies or at
Yeah.
least the range that the rookie should go in. If
Yes.
it's wide receiver, they should go make a Marvin Harrison should be going between wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 9,
Right.
somewhere in that range
Yep.
without landing spot. I am using Marvin Harrison because we know he's going to be a stud, but somebody like you were just talking about Blake Corum, who I
Mhm.
have low in dynasty.
Yeah.
But again, we're talking about best ball, and the biggest difference is we do like those spike weeks. We don't
Mhm.
care as much about the the
Yeah.
the 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 um the bust weeks. But
Yeah.
we why not take somebody like Blake Corum? Because if he does land on a good team,
Mhm.
LA Chargers,
Fingers crossed
something
the
like
chart.
that, right? But if he does land there, we got him at a value because in 2 weeks from now, after the NFL draft, he's going to be up in that 7th round,
Skyrocket.
6th round.
He is, and it's something to keep in mind too, every year with the rookies is that you're gonna have different positions that are, look better than, the others, right? So this year the receivers are just absolutely stacked. So you're gonna be able to grab, if you miss out on those big three, Adunze, Harrison and Neighbors, you're gonna be able to get value, with those guys that are still left. With running back, and Britt Flynn made a great point about this when we were on the Women's Best Ball Challenge live stream, was that Ah, gosh. Hang on, I'm not gonna lose my train of thought. What do I wanna do here? I think yeah, yeah, that works. I'm gonna take Zach Charbonnet there as my 4th running back, and then we'll see about switching to something else. But what she was saying was that, especially in this draft this year with these rookies, the running back position is a little bit weaker than it has been in years past. You don't have a Bijan, you don't have a Jahmyr Gibbs guy that's really standing out, right? So what's tough is, especially in drafts like this, as the rounds get a little bit later, you don't necessarily know, which one of these guys are going to be even on a team, right? If you take a gamble with somebody a lot later round, maybe somebody who's not getting as much press, maybe somebody who's a little bit more of a sleeper, maybe they don't get signed, or maybe they end up on a team where they don't really have a role. So, it's just something to kind of be aware of. And hey, there's not a rule that says you have to take rookies, right? Sometimes maybe you do a team where you don't have any rookie exposure, and that's okay too. When you're talking about this early and you're doing this many teams, if you want to, you can do so many different builds. Roll the dice, take a team that has, 7 rookies on it. Who knows? Take a team that doesn't have any. So it's just personal preference too. I've done kind of both ways. But just something to look out for too. Like I said, I think, like I said, with Britt making that point about especially the running backs, because I can tell you last year, my exposure on Izzy Abanikanda was absurd. And for those of you who remember what he did last year, it was nothing. He did nothing last year. So I thought he was in a great spot getting drafted to the Jets, going to be able to maybe get some, time in there after, dealing with the Brees Hall injury. And Brees decided to come back and be just absolutely amazing, kind of negating that role for what we had hoped to see Abanikanda do. So just something to kind of keep in mind when you're drafting rookies, that it could work out not so great too.
Yeah, I want to stay on the rookies for just one
Mhm.
more question at least. And you brought up a great point pre-draft and then of course after the draft. If we are doing this draft right here, right now,
Yeah.
where it's a $10 buy-in, where
Mhm.
you can absolutely go in there, and I think there's 150 total times you could purchase this
Yes.
particular draft, right? If it's available. I think
Yep.
they're at like 95% full right now, but if it's available, you can absolutely go in here and play 150 times back to back to back to back, right?
Mhm.
But
Yep.
if we're doing this exact same time frame, but now we're drafting in a $100 best ball, right? You're
Mhm.
doing a little bit more high stakes. Are
Yes.
you in your mind? Are you going, okay, I got to stay away from
Mhm.
the unknown, the
Yeah.
truly unknown, which is the rookies?
Mhm. Well, I think yes and no, right? I mean, the idea about doing a tournament like this is that you want to set your team apart also from everybody else, because when you're going into those later rounds and you're going to hope to get into the playoff part, after the season, you don't want to have the same team build as everybody else. You want to have a
Mhm.
couple guys on there that are different and unique, and you want to make that team unique. So that being said, you're going to have to take some dart throws towards the end, and you're going to have to hope they work out because I bet you all those teams that took Puka Nacua last year did really well and came out with a ton of money later, at the end of the season. And Puka Nacua, relatively unknown out of BYU, wasn't, rated really high. I don't think really too many people, had him on their radar. Charlene, darn it, Marvin Mims, that's my guy.
Oh, thank you for thank you for taking Mims off the board. We don't
Ah,
have to have a 4-hour discussion about Marvin Mims this week.
you don't, that's, we don't, but we really should. I'm gonna go with my third tight end here, to kind of go with my Jaden Reed pick. Um, and I'm gonna grab Mr. Luke Musgrave there, and then I'm gonna be done with tight end at that point. If you take a look and see who's still available, you've got Michael Mayer, Hunter Henry, Isaiah Likely, Jonnu Smith. It's getting a little ugly in the tight end world. So Musgrave there, starter on his own team. I can get him in the 13th round. So love that pick for me. Love that journey for me. As they would say on Schitt's Creek. Um, but like what we were talking about, Gator, when you're talking about more high stakes stuff, you do kind of want to be have a little bit more thought process into what you're doing. Those are, unless you just have like a ton of disposable income to spend on these, and who knows, maybe you do. But
Simmer
in
down. You don't. No, don't do that.
maybe one day, maybe that's the goal,
Maybe
right?
one day.
That's the goal. That's the goal. But just for everybody else out there who doesn't have that. Just be a little bit more careful with your picks, a little bit more thoughtful. You're probably not going to have the opportunity to do as many different fun builds as you would in like a tournament like this, or the small board, or what they call it, the little board that's out there for the $3 entry. And all throughout the summer, you're going to see, especially on Underdog, so many of these different tournaments that are out there, that you can jump in for very, very little investment.
Mhm.
But when you are doing something a little bit more, you're putting in a little bit more money on, and we'll talk about the differences between those, and these kind of tournaments, and in a little bit here, but probably not tonight, but we will definitely get to that when we do one. It does kind of make a little bit more sense to, think through, build more of a build, and what you want to accomplish out of your draft.
You are on the clock, by the way.
I am on the clock. This is going to be a smidge of a reach, but I did want to take Baker Mayfield, and Team 11 took him from me. So, speaking of rookies, I'm going to go ahead and grab another rookie for my team. It's somebody that I'm really into this year, Malachi Corley. Um, Kind of a
Love it.
Debo-esque kind of player. He is the self-proclaimed yards after catch king.
He is a
Uh,
yak. He is a yak
He's a
guy.
Yak King,
Yeah.
man. I think it's like 8.6. It's one of the highest, yards in this class, which is just absolutely absurd. Um, Malachi Corley,
I like
big
it.
fan here. Big fan.
So getting back to I want to touch on a couple more questions that I do have on the show sheet. We're what in round is that 14?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
halfway through round 14 now.
All right. So what is your typical roster construction for your best ball teams? I know here just a minute ago you took Luke Musgrave, which was your third tight end, and you said
Mhm.
I'm done taking tight ends.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm done taking tight ends there. So I really don't prefer to do a 4 tight end build, unless for some reason maybe you have waited way too long on tight end for whatever reason, and now you find yourself in a bit of a pickle, and then maybe you do need to take 4 tight ends. But just, generally speaking, I'm not a 4 tight end kind of build girl. I tend to be more of a wide receiver heavy person. I prefer drafting that way. I just think that they're more valuable. I think there's more, um, like as we were talking about earlier, like those tier breaks. I think there's
Mhm.
definitely more of that when you're looking at wide receivers. Your running backs, you can get, like I said, like I got Raheem Mostert in the 7th round. I didn't need to go spend all the money and the capital on, Saquon Barkley, whatever round it was that he went. And I'm going to go look right now because now I'm curious.
Second round, third round.
Let's see. Yeah, he went the second round.
Yeah.
It looks like it went, yeah. So McCaffrey, Bijan, Brees, Jameer,
Eight,
Kyron, Jonathan Taylor, and then Saquon, which honestly I probably would have taken Saquon before Jonathan Taylor, but that's okay
eighth
too.
running back off the board.
Yeah, eighth running back off the board. The nice thing too, just real quick about Underdog here is that they've got the Charlene. I think we do have the same notes. I think we must draft similar. If you take a look at the draft board here, it'll have the numbers on each individual square, and that corresponds to the ADP for these players. So if you're new to Underdog, that's what that means. So if you're looking at, let's see, Kendry Miller is ADP is 157. So technically speaking, he probably should have gone, a few rounds ago. So if you get Kendry Miller now, just like
Just
Team
went.
the Dynasty did, it looks like he might be getting a value at that point.
Yeah, and I think that's a great value. So
Yeah.
when you're building out your rosters for
Yes.
best ball,
Mhm.
in this one here in particular, your starting lineup is one quarterback, two running back, three wide receiver, one tight end, one flex, 12 bench spots,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So and the way best ball does it, you don't have to set your lineup. It does it
Right.
for you, right? So whatever, if you take four quarterbacks, you can have three of them get 20 points and one to get 21 points.
Mhm.
The only one you're going to get points for is the 21-point guy. So
Exactly.
this is why I'm asking the question. The roster construction, you probably three quarterbacks
Mhm.
overall
Yes.
at the max, I would think. Because again, we don't know scheduling and bye weeks and that sort of thing.
Right.
So how are you filling out your roster when it comes to running backs, wide receivers? You said three tight ends max,
Mhm.
which the flex spot, of course, but or how are you filling out the rest of it with your running backs and tight ends, like number wise? Is there a number that you're like, I've got to get at least this amount of running backs and this amount of wide receiver, or is it strictly as long as I'm over three, I'm it's all about value at that point?
So I don't like to go in saying, like I have to have, six wide receivers. Usually I end up with at least six wide receivers just because of how I draft. But when you're looking at the drafts, like value, like you just said, take what the draft gives you. If you've got tremendous value at a position, maybe you do have six of them, but if there's a great value there in best ball, grab it. Like don't just ignore it just because, oh, well, I can't take one more running back. Don't do that to yourself. So, just take a look at what's going on, look around you. I always prefer to just as strategy wise to have the board up in front of me. I know some people don't look at the boards. They just have their dashboard right in front of them when they're drafting. I like having the board up so I can see what other people are doing. Because I know, okay, look, there's all these teams, and we've only got two teams left that don't have a quarterback. Guess what? I'm going to take my second quarterback now because, hey, you know what? If you waited, that's to your detriment, buddy. So I'm going to go grab, somebody to make my team a little bit better. Because that's what we're all trying to win here, right? So just paying attention to what's going on in the draft rather than just what's right in front of you with your team. Because especially in some of these, it's hard if you're not looking at the board as a whole to keep
Hmm.
track of what's going on and what other players might still be out there, what other teams might still be looking to fill different positions that maybe you might want to, take note of. Yeah, Charlene, exactly. Having the board up is key. Seeing exactly. Charlene, our minds have melded here. Exactly.
Y'all are sharing each other's notes, so
We really are.
it is what it is. By the way,
Yeah.
if you guys are watching over on Twitter, join us over on YouTube. It's easier to see your questions, your comments, that sort of thing. But also, while you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that thumbs up for us. If you like the content we're putting out, absolutely please hit that thumbs up, and then make sure you hit that little subscribe button. I don't care if you hit the notifications. I just want you to hit that subscribe button because we are on our way to 1,000, and we can
Mhm.
only do that with you. Calvin says, I love that the big board theory got to be able to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Calvin. I mean, listen, it's like knowing the rules. It's like knowing the scoring settings, right? You got to know what the scoring settings are,
Mhm.
otherwise you can't play the game. Who? Why are you taking quarterback when it's a 4-point passing compared to a 6-point passing? When you can get 6 points for the
Yeah.
wide receiver that's catching it.
I thought you were asking me specifically, why are you taking quarterback since I just took one? And I gotta tell you, I felt a little dirty about that pick.
You should absolutely feel dirty about that pick.
I took Derek Carr. For those of you that are not watching, I took Derek Carr as my third QB. I should feel bad about that, considering that he was just terrible last year. But honestly, when I looked around, I didn't really love any of the receivers here right now. I think there's some few guys that I want to grab, but it's still a little too early for them. I didn't really like what I saw. There's a few tight ends out there that still make, a lot of sense to go grab, but I mean, I'm done with tight end. I don't need one more tight end, so I'm going to fill in those other positions. So that being said, I thought, you know what, I'll go ahead and grab one of the last starters that's out there. I mean, there's a few more. Russell's still out there, Bryce Young's still out there, and so is, Danny Dimes, I guess, is a starter for now. But who knows how long that's going to last.
Well, that brings me to a question that is not on the show sheet that I'm going to ask you, because
let's go.
The way you just put that statement out there.
Yeah.
Who is one player for you that is absolutely best ball only draft? I'm not taking him in any dynasty, any redraft. He's only a best ball player. And the reason I'm asking this is, again, we talked about it earlier. We want the boom bust. We don't care about the bust as much in best ball because we don't set our lineup. So who is one guy that is a best ball only player for you?
Oh, Gabe Davis, 100%. Gabe Davis.
That's cheating.
That is, I mean, that's the easy answer, right? Is Gabe Davis. I'll tell you this. There's a group of guys that are, and this is betraying my team a little bit here because I'm a Packer fan. But I'll tell you what, man, that Packer receiving core, they thinking about having to pick which one of them is going off in redraft every week gives me the heebie-jeebies. So I think, I mean, I'm sure I'll take, some of those guys in redraft this year, but I think I'm going to like it a little bit more in best ball because it's every week it's going to be different. It's going to be a Jaden Reed week one week. It's going to be a Christian Watson week one week. Dontavian Wentz
is it?
There. Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Last year. Oh yeah, that's
well. He'll get what, 2 weeks? 2 or 3 weeks.
Who, Christian Watson?
Yeah.
Oh no. Listen, my boy Christian Watson is out there trying to better himself. He is learning about hamstring injuries. They are coming up with a plan, over there in that room in the Green Bay room over there to, figure out what's going on with him. Why is that affecting him so much? And, they're going to get it fixed. Just like Tua last year, dealt with the issues surrounding why he was getting so many concussions and, took some, steps during the offseason to help, with him and make sure that doesn't happen as much. And look what it did last year. It was great for him. I mean, honestly, I was after 2 years ago with Tua, I was worried for that man to go back on the field after that, but he seems to have got that under control. So a little bit of a sidetrack for me,
but Daddy, I'm gonna look at Stacy's team once their draft is complete. We'll go back and look at the full team. So hang out if you can. Hopefully you can. If not, come back and check out the show on the re-air. And we will go over Stacy's team when the draft is complete. That way the draft board can stay up there. But you just said don't do that to yourself, Stacy. Okay. Oh, talking about the tight end.
With the tight ends. Yeah. I mean, there was some good value out there. Not enough to make me want to take them over what Derek Carr could potentially do.
Right. 17th round. You are coming up on the clock.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Talk everybody through this process right here where Rashad Bateman just went in front of you. What are you looking at?
So right now, I mean, look at the receivers that have gone, before. We've got Rashad Bateman, Tyler Boyd. It's probably a little too low for Tyler Boyd, and Javon Baker. So, rookie. Then we've got, a couple old vets over here. At this point, you're looking at dart throws, right? We're in the 17th round. I'm going to grab my dart throw real quick before he ends up auto drafting. I'm going to grab Malik Washington there.
There you go.
Just like I said, fun dart throw at this point, because the guys that you're getting here, you're hoping that you get guys that are going to have opportunity to get on the field at this point. This is when you want to go grab maybe some of those, guys who are an injury away from getting playing time. That's what you're looking at here, because at some point, right, somebody's going to get hurt on your team. And either they're going to miss a game or two, or maybe they miss the entire season, who knows. But so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are looking ahead. You're looking at depth charts. That information is free and available, online. You can Google team depth charts. Several websites have those, and they're up to date even right now. So you can look and see, who are going to be the guys out there that, they're not going to start. They may not get the chance right off the bat, but if something happens to number one, they're coming in and they're going to get some time and they're going to get their chance. So go after those guys, grab those guys. And I think you're going to see a lot in the last couple rounds here of people taking those kind of players.
Yeah, Our Lads is a great
Thank
reference
you.
for
Yes, our lads.
yeah, Our Lads is a great reference for the depth chart.
Yes.
Stacy, what advice do you have for fantasy managers who are new to best ball and looking to improve their drafting skills?
Yeah. I would just say go and do a ton of drafts just like these that are low investment that you can spend money on and time on. Um, I'm on the clock
Well,
right
and I
now.
think that's
In
that's
2
that's
seconds, and I'm gonna finish my thought.
yeah, that's a
Uh,
great point, because when we're talking about this one here, it's $10 that we just bought in for this one. But Underdog does have $3 drafts.
oh, yeah, yeah.
So
We're gonna
it,
have sorry.
no, I just want to make sure that the $3 drafts were brought up. So for improving your drafts,
Mhm.
helping you do multiples at a time, or even back to back to back kind of a thing. $3, you can get 3 of them in for the same price that you got this one. So, but what
Oh,
else do
yeah.
you have for that? I'm sorry, Stacey, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just knew you
That's
were
okay.
drafting at that point.
No, no, no. What's up, Jamie? We see you over there in the chat. Yeah, so I would just do more drafts. If you can spend some little time on it, the more you do, the better you're gonna get. Just practice, 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 right?
We're talking about
So
practice.
practice, we're talking about practice. But it really does. And do it all throughout the season because you're gonna be able to see what's out there. You're gonna be able to get different builds at different times of the year. And have different exposure rates, different players, and Jamie says here he invested $300 in $3 drafts. You always win, more than you put in, and that's the goal, right? You want to win more than you're putting into it, even if it's just a little bit. It makes it worth your while. And when we're talking about this stuff, right? This is a hobby. This is kind of the way I look at it is this is my hobby, so I do for entertainment. So I'm going to spend a little bit of money on something that entertains me. So kind of think about it like that too. But yeah, I mean, if you want to get better, go out and do more drafts. I mean, if you're waiting until August to start drafting, you're going to go in cold. You're not going to know what the trends are. You're not going to know what people's, what players' ADP is, where they're being drafted. And you're going to kind of put yourself a little bit behind, everybody else that's been drafting all year. Now, you don't need to go crazy. And, I mean, by all means, do it if you want to. But, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you have to be drafting, the day the Super Bowl starts. But I like to draft a little early, just get in there and see what's going on, see what people are thinking, and see where the ADP is falling before and after the draft. It's just a
Yeah,
little bit, it's fun.
yeah. Jamie brings up a great point as well. He uses Underdog drafts as his real mocks,
Yes, yes,
which is not a
absolutely.
that's not a bad idea, to be quite honest, because
Mhm.
you can absolutely, as you've said earlier, with different strategies, go in, have 10 or 15 different strategies. Okay, which one works best? Knowing, hey, look, this is a best ball draft. I'm using this as a mock.
Yep.
Okay. It
Yeah.
cost me $3. It cost me $5. It cost me $10, whatever to do this. And
Mhm.
if I win something at the end, I win something at the end. But you're drafting against usually some pretty smart people in the room, right? And so now
You're absolutely
I'm
right.
gaining knowledge from everybody else. Where is ADP? And I'm able to take this best ball mock, as Jamie puts it, over to the redraft streets, over
Yep.
to my dynasty streets, kind of a thing.
Exactly. And I just kind of want to speak to what Jamie was saying too, because I'm right there with you, Jamie. For me personally, I don't enjoy mock drafts, true mock drafts, right? Where,
Stacy hates me and hates what I do.
that's not
That's what
true, Gator.
that's what I heard, Jamie. I don't know if you heard
Oh,
that, but that's what I heard.
oh my goodness, not true, not true. Listen, here's my beef with the mock drafts, okay? You don't have skin in the game, right? So you don't have skin in the game, so you're
Fair.
not playing maybe you're not, but maybe some people are in there that are not taking it seriously. So what good is it? For me, that's kind of my thought process. And golly, this J Max person, he and I are going to have a talk because Trey Palmer was on my list of people to take. But I just prefer doing drafts like this because there is skin in the game. People are drafting for real. They're doing what they would do in an actual
Mhm.
draft. And as opposed to a mock draft, maybe you're in there with maybe some bots. Maybe it's not completely full of people that are actually taking it seriously, and you just don't know. And so if I'm going to spend my time doing that and doing my research, because this is what this really is doing research too. Besides drafting a team, for your enjoyment, you want to know what's out there. You want to get, more and more experience drafting. So I want to take it seriously. So that's my issue with mocks. Whatever you got me, that's
You
fine. But
you know
that's my preference.
I got to give you a hard time on that.
I do.
Yeah, it's all fun, and you are on the clock right now.
I just grabbed J.K. Dobbins just as a kind of a dart throw flyer. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with him? He's in the 19th round, guys. I'm not really concerned. Trey Palmer, most owned player in Underdog. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Trey Palmer last year was fantastic for his position, wide receiver 3 on the Bucks.
Is he not the epitome of what the question I just asked you a minute ago of who is a best ball only player? Now in Dynasty, okay, Trey Palmer is one thing. But in redraft, you're not going out there and you're not seeking out Trey Palmer in redraft, right? But in a best ball, you're definitely going to try to seek him out, especially 18th, 19th, 20th round. Because again, just like a tight end, all we're looking for is that 1 or 2 week where he catches that 60-yard touchdown, and we just get that boom.
Right? I mean, Trey Palmer specifically, that's how they were using Trey Palmer, right? So you're using him, field stretching him, getting him down the field, that vertical threat, and then throwing the ball to him. So why wouldn't you want to take a guy in the 19th round who has the ability to do a nice little boom or bust for you there? Jamie's just exactly right too here with, that Baker Godwin Palmer stack is so cheap. Jamie, you'd put it because we're going to need to circle back and talk about that next episode about different cheap stacks and what's available and putting together things like that, because there are a ton of examples of that. But you make an excellent point, and then adding K-Dot in there as well is a great late round tight end if you've kind of waited a little bit. Starting tight end on a good offense, Baker does throw to him. So
97%, K-Dot 97% on the field.
Oh, come on now. You can't do better than that. You want a guy, you want opportunity, and you want talent, right? And so if you have a guy that's got opportunity, obviously 97% of the snaps he's on the field. Yeah, I think that's plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's just offensive snaps, but it could be defensive snaps as well. He's always on the field.
Jamie's got good snacks. I don't know what kind of snacks you have, Jamie, but he's got really good stacks though in his back pocket.
Yeah, he's got. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to take another little dart throw here for me. Andre Shivas. That's Yoshivas from Princeton alum, I believe. He was
is he playing for the Bucks? Because I mean,
no, he's playing for Cincinnati.
The only Princeton alum that I know that did anything in the NFL played for the Bucks.
Who was that? Who's Princeton alum?
It was I'm sorry, it was Harvard.
Oh, you're talking about Fitzmagic. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yoshivas, I got lots of info. He's a decathlon athlete, played 10 different what are they called? 10 different I don't know. Anyway, 10 different sports is decathlon. Events. Thank you. That's the word I couldn't think of. But I really like him. They brought him in and incorporated him into the offense more and more towards the end of the season. Just beloved during his rookie season by the rest of the team. 20th round, a guy that could potentially get you the same thing as Trey Palmer, get you a couple touchdowns, on a good offense, have that ability to get in there, score, get you points. That's what you're looking for. So.
Well, I got one more question as this draft wraps up before we talk about the actual draft that you had.
Yeah.
Are there any specific draft strategies beginners should consider, such as zero RB? Yeah. We talked about stacking a little bit, but what is something that you would say, yes, this is something you must do as a beginner?
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely need to learn that terminology, right? You need to learn what a zero RB build is. You need to learn what a hero RB build is or an anchor RB build. And we're going to talk more about those during the season as we go on and do some more drafts. Mm-hmm. You also want to talk about, what about those receivers? You're going to go receiver heavy. You want to look at that as well. So you want to learn what the strategies are, what that looks like, how to build those strategies. Or how to build those teams. So if you're doing a true, zero RB build, you're not taking somebody for several rounds. You've got to be really disciplined to make yourself not do it. So, just things that you need to learn and be aware of that are out there. that's what I would say is that, you want to look at all the different builds that are available and learn what they mean and what it looks like in practice. So Jamie says there's breaking news that Dallas signed Royce Freeman. Is that real news, Jamie? Is that or are you just taking us out?
First of all, is it news? Is it even
No.
breaking news? I mean,
No.
it's.
I didn't know Royce Freeman was still playing in the league. Sorry, Royce. I'm sure you're.
I don't know that even if he's got a contract, I don't know that he's still playing in the league. I don't.
Man.
Again, once again, do not forget to subscribe to Club Fantasy FFL over on YouTube. We are headed to that 1,000 subscriber. Please help us out if you can or will. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. As soon as this, I guess the last pick never happens.
It doesn't. You have no idea
on the board here. Stacy, can you back out of that and go to your actual draft players themselves, and we can talk about some of these players, or if that's possible? I think we can do it. I'm not 100% sure.
So, you want to give me just 1 second? Here we go. Big board, 2 entries. That was, this one. Okay.
Charlene says, thank you. It was fun.
Charlene, thanks for drafting with us. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Like, this was a blast.
100%.
Don't draft with me anymore because I don't want you sniping me. So.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to talk to Underdog about that and make sure she's far, far away from us as you're drafting, right?
Our Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah, if you guys give me just 1 second, I can pull up. I've got.
As you're doing that, before we, I'll go ahead and run down through the Club Fantasy schedule throughout the week. Tuesday nights, right here, Masterclass, your high stakes best ball, 8:30 p.m. Tomorrow morning, Who's Your Caddy, the golf DFS at 9 a.m. Tomorrow night, the flagship show, no pun intended, at 7. Saturday morning, Mock It Like It's Hot at 11 a.m. Sunday morning at 11 a.m., Dynasty After Party, the Dynasty show that we produce right here on Club Fantasy FFL. And then my other show on Mondays, Mocking with the Stars at 10 p.m. Stacy, I don't know if you know this yet, but we've had some pretty good guests on our show with Howard Bender and Andrew Cooper. We had Josh Hudson last night, who says he's not a star, but he is. But tomorrow night, next Monday night, rather, the Quan is coming on.
Really? That's exciting.
So,
that's big news.
And yes, that is myself and Chris Batterstyle.
Nice.
On Monday evenings. So,
Chris, tomorrow night, buddy, just letting you know, your Toronto Maple Leafs going down.
Going down. You're going down.
Guys, Mr. Irrelevant, the one and only human Dortch, Greg Dortch. Arizona.
Dortch.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I can back out, I think. Gator, do you want the new draft board, or do you want just my particular?
Just your particular team. That way we can talk about the apps, the players that you chose and the position that they came in real quick. Maybe we'll spend like 5 minutes on it.
It may look better if we do the draft board because if not, it's real small in the corner. The guys, if you're looking at the your dashboard, it pops up and it's just real small in the corner.
All right, so you took in the first round at pick 8, you took Puka Nacua, Drake London with your second round pick, Rashid Rice with your third round pick, CJ Stroud in the fourth round, and then Jaden Reed there. We'll stop it at the 5 rounds. We'll talk about 5 rounds at a time here. Puka Nacua, Drake London, Rashid Rice, CJ Stroud, and Jaden Reed. I don't think there's a problem with any one of these picks other than like we talked about already with CJ Stroud maybe being a little bit early. Don't hate it though.
No. Look at these young receivers. I didn't mean to put the baby squad together, but here we are. What's up, Angie? We see you in there. Angie, gonna have to come draft with us next week.
We got to get Angie in draft.
We've got our first, second, third year players in here. But I'm really into this build here. Like I said, guys, like I said, you all know, I've said it several times. I'm sure I'll say it again till I'm blue in the face. But I've got a heavy receiver. Jamie thinks I'm a little early here at number 8. He's actually number 9 was where Puka was. And I'll tell you why, because I really wanted Amon-Ra St. Brown. I knew he was not going to fall to me at 9. AJ Brown is fine there too, but I wanted a receiver. So when you're looking at the receivers, then at that point, are you taking Garrett Wilson over Puka? Are you taking Brandon Ayuk, Marvin Harrison, Javante Adams, Debo? I don't think I'm taking any of those guys over Puka, especially
Mhm.
where he was sixth most targeted player last season. Um, you could potentially make an argument for me with Garrett Wilson, maybe, but I am a little gun shy on Garrett Wilson because I took a ton of Garrett Wilson last year, and we all know how that ended out. First game of the season with Rodgers. So it's Puka for me. I don't feel bad about that. And I don't think it's egregious, really,
I
right
mean,
there.
I don't either. I think that was my mistake. I said 8. It was pick 9, but all in all, I mean, he was the 7th wide receiver off the board. And speaking of 7, Charlene said she almost took him at 7.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad at all.
Yeah.
But Daddy, just you missed it earlier. The CJ Stroud pick was an auto pick.
Hmm.
So that's where that question came up. Would you have taken
Hmm.
Mahomes instead of Stroud there? Or
Ooh.
would you have
So
waited, of course?
um, you got to go back and look at Mahomes's overall fantasy numbers. Um, they're a little frustrating, and honestly, I think there's other guys that give you a little bit more potential for more big number games. Um, Mahomes is the goat, absolutely, but in fantasy, I think I've just been burned with a little too many 15-point games from him.
Mhm.
So when I'm looking at guys that I want to take and I want to spend that draft capital on for quarterback. I'm going to take guys that have potential to put up a few more points than Mahomes does. So, could you do a stack there with him and Rashee Rice? Absolutely. And in that case, I'd probably want to grab a Kelsey there as well, just to make it worth my while. But yeah, I just don't love Mahomes in fantasy. It's just hard. It just makes it hard. Um, I had him and Brock Purdy on a team last year, and I got to tell you, for the most part, I ended up starting Purdy, which makes you wonder why did you spend the draft capital to get Mahomes in that point. So
Well, yeah. We brought up earlier, in these next couple of weeks, we'll talk about some cheap stacks. That's an
yep,
expensive stack. Mahomes and Kelsey is an expensive stack. So
yeah,
something we try to avoid, especially playing in best ball, is paying up. We want the
yeah.
value, but we want it for as cheap as we can get it, right?
Exactly. You want to get good closing line value on somebody, and that is a term that we will teach you if you're not familiar with it in the days to come. Gator, aren't we going to be putting together a best ball vocabulary, best ball dictionary, so to speak?
We are going to do that, and it's going to be a conglomeration of a couple people. We're going to have put this together, including our very own Austin Amendola, Matt Record,
Yeah.
yourself. We're gonna put together a best ball encyclopedia.
Yes.
So that is definitely coming in the future weeks. Let's get to round 6 through 10,
Yeah.
where you had Kyle Pitts, Raheem Mostert, Tony Pollard, Jake
Mhm.
Ferguson, and then Kirk Cousins, capitalizing on a triple stack in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts, and
Mhm.
Drake London there.
Yeah.
Um, love the Kyle Pitts pick. Raheem
Yes.
Mostert of great value there.
Mhm.
Never been a Tony Pollard fan. We'll see what happens in his new
Yeah.
situation in Tennessee. Jake Ferguson, I've already said how much I love him. The Kirk Cousins, I mean, great value, getting the triple stack. What do you, these
Yeah.
5 guys? What were your thought process going through these 5?
And I'll just tell you too, not the biggest Tony Pollard fan either. But looking at it, the guys that he's going around, with Ramondre there, Najee, DeAndre Swift, Jalen Warren. I think that's wild that Warren and Najee went in the same round, literally a spot apart. Austin Eckler, Javante Williams. I think Pollard thrives in a situation where he has another guy there with him, and I think that's what hopefully it will kind of make maybe a return to his former glory, in Tennessee now that he's got a little bit more back there. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for with him. And keep in mind too, when you are drafting running backs a lot later than some other people, this is kind of what's available. So could you make an argument that maybe you'd rather go Ramondre? I did that last year and that didn't turn out that great. That's going to be a really terrible offense. They're going to have a lot to work. Well, not a lot to work with there in New England. Pittsburgh, same thing. I do like the Warren pick. I could have easily taken Warren there instead. Um, but I think all those guys have about the same range of outcomes. So, it's just really your preference there, but I don't have a ton of Pollard, so get a little bit of exposure. When I say exposure, meaning, like you're going to be drafting a ton of these. Don't stick yourself with the same players in every single draft that you do. Make it varied a little bit so that you have, when we say exposure, so you have exposure to so many different players. And one of the really cool things about Underdog is that it gives you that information with all of your drafts. You can go on there and look and see under in your dashboard, all the different players and percentages that you have of them. So.
Yeah, and I sit here and say I'm not a huge Tony Pollard fan, but I 100% agree. Go get the exposure to him, especially in that 8th, 9th round area. Again, like Jamie says here, you're going to get that 2 weeks. Those two to five top 5 games.
Yeah,
and that's what you want. So that late, 9th, 10th round, I don't hate it. I'm just not a huge Tony Pollard fan.
yeah.
I probably would have rather, especially with the current situation in Pittsburgh, I would have rather Najee Harris. I
Najee.
believe in that round he came after. Was he before you?
He
Before
was
you got
he
picked?
was no, he was after. I think that was the round that went Love, Purdy, and then me with Pollard, and then down that way.
Okay, that's all. That's fair there. Around 11, and where we at here? Around 10, around 11. Blake Corum, Zach Charbonnet, Luke Musgrave, Malachi Corley, and then Rico Dowell.
So this is a little bit of it starts getting weird, around this part of the draft. So it's when you're going to take a flyer on some of those, higher rookies. Charlene says, this is her worst round. There. So, I've got him, Zach Charbonnet last year, going to be a little bit, that thunder with the lightning with Kenneth Walker. Luke Musgrave, like I said, wanted to take him as my last tight end. He's starting tight end on good offense. They throw to him, quite a bit. So potential there to bring in some points. Malachi Corley, that's kind of my rookie dart throw there. It's a guy that I'm really high on this year. As far as rookies go, I feel like he's going to be, able to produce, starting right off the bat. And that's kind of how I feel about Blake Corum too. I feel like, some of these guys are going to get drafted on teams. They may not have the ability to go in and, produce right off the bat. I have a good feeling about Corum and Corley. Both of those rookies are going to have roles on whatever team drafts them. Rico Dowdle, I just went because Dallas is, right now he's their starting running back. So even if they get somebody, and I'm not talking about Royce Freeman, they go draft somebody, Rico Dowdle's still going to be there. He's still going to have a role in that offense. I can't tell you how many times I had to start him last year and he ended up with a touchdown or two. So, you kind of giggle at, a pick like Rico Dowdle, but, I don't really care what it looks like. As long as you're giving me points, that's fine. And he did that last year.
Yeah, scroll back up just a hair, like 1 or 2 rounds, I think it was. Yeah. Okay, so Jamie, to answer your question, Jamie, Persall went directly after, directly after Malachi Corley. So,
he's a fun one too, Ricky Pearsall. He's a rookie that I'm definitely got my eye on for later this year.
Absolutely. 14, I believe, is where we're at here. Rico Dowdle.
We're right after 16, actually. We're right after Rico.
Okay, so we're at Derek Carr, Malik Washington, Kenneth Gainwell, J.K. Dobbins, and then I can't see the last one.
Andre Yeshivas.
Oh, Andre Yeshivas. Okay.
Andre Yeshivas. Yeah, so this is kind of where it gets, like I said, you're looking for guys, you're looking for players that have the ability to produce. You want to take the guy that's got the most ability at this point. So that is why I took Derek Carr in that spot. Looking around at some of the other, like we talked about, there's, like I said, there were value at tight end here. I'm talking about Hunter Henry in specific, as well as Tucker Kraft, and even potentially, where did he go? Did Dawson Knox not get drafted in this draft? Well, anyway, those are guys that are used, heavily in the red zone, and so there is that ability there for them. However, I think Derek Carr is going to by far outscore and give you more points than somebody like a Hunter Henry or a Noah Fant, Tucker Kraft, most likely. I just saw that Darren Waller went in the 20th round. My gosh, how like the mighty have fallen there. My goodness. That's wild. But, going back to Derek Carr, and that's why I took him, was that, third quarterback, let's grab somebody in case, whatever, crazy reason, maybe both my guys are on a bye week. It's always good to have a third person there. Odds are, if you're drafting this early, you don't know bye weeks yet, you're probably not going to get have the same bye. So grab Malik Washington, just another rookie that I'm pretty high on, really enjoy watching him play. And Kenneth Gainwell, that guy's always good for a couple touchdowns. He's going to go in there, he's going to grab somebody, they spell, Saquon, and always good for a couple sneaky touchdowns that you're not expecting. Dobbins is a dart throw. He is absolutely a dart throw. I have no idea what's going to happen with him, but he's got the talent if he can stay healthy. So that's why I grabbed him there. And then Yoshivas, good offense is a guy that, like, I know I talked a lot about him earlier, but just somebody that's been integrated into their offense and that they are using him. Obviously not like they're using, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase at all, of course. But, somebody that they are putting on the field and is getting some attention. So, yeah, and that's why I took him at around 20.
Yeah, I think, that the Waller thing has a lot to do with the retirement rumors.
Yeah.
And Jamie brings up that Hockenson going in the 10th, 11th round, only missing 4 to 6 games. He's still a top 2 to 5 tight end.
Oh, totally.
I
totally.
do not disagree with Jamie at all there. I do think, though, this is, again, where you can look at these best ball drafts and go, okay, wait a minute. If he's fallen that far, but then all of a sudden somebody's going to reach in a redraft and go get him in the second round.
Yeah.
There's value to be had in other positions than at tight end. So I think that's a lot of it too, Jamie. In these drafts, there's the value for tight end is a lot lower than it is for the wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, go grab a couple of your tight ends. Go grab Hockenson, who's probably going to play at the second half of the season, and he's a stud. If you can get him, to go on with a couple of your other guys, I have done that actually in a league that I drafted earlier this year. So all for it.
Yeah, I think if you can get a Hockenson, you can absolutely turn right around and go, okay, I only need one other tight end.
Yeah.
Go get Kate Otten.
Exactly.
Right. And now I get to add another running back or another wide receiver to my squad outside of going and getting that third tight end.
Exactly. Yeah. So players like that people are maybe a little bit afraid of, a little bit hesitant to take because of an injury issue. If you feel comfortable with it, go grab them. Somebody like Hockenson, he's coming back. He's going to play. He's going to take his, spot back as soon as he's able to get back in the lineup.
Yeah, there is no you're injured, so you lose your job with that style of player.
No.
All right, Stacy, let's get out of here. Class was fun today. It was a little bit long.
Yes.
But class, thank you for being the professor and professional that you are. Let the good people, let the viewers, let the listeners know where they can find you, what you're working on.
So working on a few different things, definitely doing a ton of drafting over this off season. But those of us, in the fantasy football community, we always know there is no off season. But be on the lookout for that. You can find me over on Twitter at Stacy_Perez83. You can find the rest of my content over on fantasyandframes.com. You can find, our draft show here. Please make sure, like Gator said, give us a like and a follow. That way when we're drafting. So every week, if there's the ability for you to jump in and draft with us, I want to make sure that you have that ability. I want to see you in those drafts. I want to be drafting with people that are in the chat. So make sure you're doing that. And the only way to do that is to make sure you give us a follow.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. And we drop the shows. So if you don't want to follow Stacy, you can follow me. If you don't want to follow me, follow Stacy over there on Twitter, because we are sharing all the stuff back and forth. DM us, let us know.
That's
Stacy, let's draft.
Let's go, Charlene. Let's do it. Charlene's going to be in the Women's Best Ball Challenge next year. 100%. Charlene,
yes.
Let's make sure we connect.
Jamie said it's never too long of a show with Gator and Stacy. Bob Harris saying thank you. Absolutely, absolutely wonderful. I think the elementary class that we went through today was very, very nice. It was smooth. Next week we get to a little bit more rougher. We get a little bit more in depth. I think
building on our knowledge. Exactly.
We are definitely going to build up the knowledge. So, Stacey, anything else you want to add? Let the good people know.
No, I think that's it, guys. Thanks again so much for everybody who joined us. The chat was on fire. Love it. Draft room was wonderful. Charlene, thank you for jumping in that draft with us. Everybody else listening and watching, thank you guys so much for being so supportive and helping us achieve our vision and getting the world to know about the insane fun that, best drafting in best ball is. So thanks,
Absolutely.
guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charlene. Boom, chicka, boom, she is.
Yeah.
Boom. All right, guys. Until next Tuesday, 8:30. Stacy, do we have an idea of what draft are we going to jump back into the underdog streets as we're learning these things?
I've got a couple on board that I want to look at and see what's
Okay.
available. Coming up to the draft, there are some different tournaments that have some deadlines. So I want to make sure before I announce something that we can absolutely get into one. So that's why you need to give us a like and a follow so that you know exactly what we're drafting next week. So I have a good idea. I have a really fun one planned. But I want to make sure that it's still that tournament hasn't closed out yet. So
Yeah, we got to get Jamie a charity slip he can take home to his
great.
mama. All right, guys. Until next Tuesday, 8:30 for Stacy, for myself. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy. We will see you next week.
Toodles.